Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hello, and thanks for joining us today for the New World Order Podcast Showcase. Today, I'm very excited to introduce Becca Froh. She's a productivity coach. I'm so excited to get this conversation started. And Becca, welcome.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here, and it's just great to talk with you.
I'm so excited. So basically, you know what? The floor is yours. Why don't you tell us about yourself? Share your story of, where you came from and where you are now and what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So my name is Becca Froh. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. And like you said, I am a productivity coach. So how did I get to be a productivity coach? Definitely, it started, my aunt was a portrait artist. We lived in this very small farm community growing up. And there was a family in town who couldn't read. I was 10 or 11 years old, and she said, you know what, can you help me help this family to read? I said, sure. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds fun, And so there was a mom, a dad, and 3 kids. And we worked with them every single day after the dad got off work. And then one day he was able to read the newspaper. And I cried, she cried, I think everybody cried, because finally this man, this head of the household, could read a newspaper, which back in the early 90s was a big deal. I know we don't do newspapers anymore, but that was life-changing for me. And I knew that I wanted to help people. It had been his dream to learn how to read. And, he was going to be able to get off some social programs then because he could read his own mail and pay his own bills. And so just to have that independence, and then also to show his kids that it's okay to read. And I'm an avid reader. So that it's hard for me to even say, like, people think that reading isn't important, but a lot of people think that reading isn't important. So, it was his dream, and I knew that I wanted to help people. And I thought, well, do I want to help people learn to read? And I thought, no, that's not exactly it. That's not what feels right in the soul. And I do that sometimes. But what fills my soul, what my life's purpose is helping people to live the life that they have imagined, helping people to reach their dreams, whether it's reading, or whether it's retiring, whether it's getting that promotion or losing 80 pounds. My job is to help you to get there. So that's what I do. And I start a lot of times with, especially when I work with moms, I have a book called, Are You Okay? Because that's the question that we should be asking moms. Are you okay?
Yes, I can attest to that.
Yes. And I mean, truly, it's a love letter to women to let them know that you're doing a lot better than you think that you're doing, that you are not a failure. You are not wrecking your child. Normal is just a setting on the dryer. I have a big graphic in there that says normal is just a setting on the dryer. And it's really just to say, you're doing all right. And if you feel like judging another mom, then instead ask them, have you eaten? Mm-hmm. Can I support you in some way? Or, my favorite one, it's funny, my best friend and I live about 30 minutes apart, so we don't do it very often, but she does it with her neighbor all the time. Um, she'll say, you know what? I love to cook. You love to clean. We hate the opposite thing. Let's get together. I'll clean your house and my house while you cook my meals and your meals, prep them for the week. How about let's just do that?
Wow.
And instead of judging somebody for having a trashed house, why don't you just say, hey, you want to cook for me and I'll clean your house?
Mm-hmm.
Because doesn't that feel better? Because I think, we're all doing the very best that we can at any given time. Now, some days that looks like laying in bed curled up in a ball, and some days that looks like being Superwoman. So we're all trying our best. So let's not judge each other. Let's not be harsh with one another. Let's instead seek how we can be a help and a blessing to one another. Because I mean, a lot of us don't have, the support of family. So my family, my closest family lives a 16-hour drive away.
Oh,
They
wow.
can't babysit my 4-year-old. They can't pick up my daughter from swim practice. They can't give that kind of help and support. So you have to build your own community. And yeah, I mean, I have done that, and I don't know what I would do, without my little support and community. And it just feels better to help instead of to judge. So that's the
Yeah.
first thing that we always talk about.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Being a mom myself, and it's very, very easy to shame yourself and feel alone, especially if you don't have that support system. And
Yeah.
you don't know maybe where to get that support system because you're afraid to ask for help, or or to admit that I can't keep a tidy house, but I'm a darn good cook, and I never really thought that's actually pretty genius. I never really thought of that, of kind of teaming up with somebody with your strengths and your weaknesses, and that takes the
Mhm.
pressure off of both of you. Beautiful. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, another thing I always encourage people to do is have a lot of fun. So everybody probably has dice around their house. These are 10-sided crystal dice, just because I'm a big fan of crystals, not because I'm a big fan of D&D. But so what I will do, this is a 10-sided dice. And so I'll take my to-do list, and you would put it in a circle, in a brainstorming method instead. So in the middle, write to do. And then you put spokes out, and you would say, wash the dishes, pay the bills, clean out my email list. And you can just say, oh, number one, I'm doing number one on my list. Or you can spin, if you have, my 4-year-old stole my spinner toy out of his Apple's game box, but I usually use a spinner toy, and just say, oh, I guess I'm washing the dishes right now, because the dial said, or oh, the dice said I'm doing number two, and number two is pay the bills. So
Love that.
when you, thank you, because when you gamify your to-do list, then for one thing, it's not so boring, but also it takes that decision freeze away. Do you ever have so many things to do that you just get frozen and do nothing?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, glad it's not just me, but
Yes.
this, gamifying it takes that away. It's like a magic 8 ball, right? So you say, "Ooh, do I do this? Ooh, not recommended," right? So you're giving the decision away to the game. So you're having fun, and you're taking away that opportunity to freeze. You can't freeze because you just roll the dice and say, whatever it is, oh, I have to go rake the yard. That sucks, but I got number four.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because we tend to just avoid it, and that list then sometimes grows and it becomes overwhelming. and
And
then you don't want to tackle it even more after that. So it
mhm,
snowballs after that. So yeah,
it
gamify. I
does.
love that. Gamify. That's really cool.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Good, good,
Awesome.
good. Well, my last big thing that I always like to talk about is the Pomodoro method. Have you heard of the Pomodoro method?
Never.
Okay, so this method was brought about in the 1980s by a college professor who was trying to focus more, and he couldn't focus, and so he got one of those 80s kitchen timers. Do you remember the apple-shaped kitchen
Yep.
timers that everybody had? And he set that sucker for 25 minutes, did absolutely nothing but focus on his task at hand for 25 minutes, and found like a 60% increase in productivity as a result. So the method is that you focus intensely on absolutely nothing but one task at hand, and you have a goal. So I want to write a half a page. I want to finish paying all my utilities, whatever the case may be. And so 25 minutes, and then at 5 minutes, you take a break. And you do that 3 times. And then after the fourth 25-minute segment, you take a half-hour break. So you're spending 2 hours, and you can accomplish a full day's work in 2 hours by doing 25-minute segments. No phone, no bathroom breaks. You have your snack and you have your drink, and you just go. And I had a guy I'm working with who is studying for the LSAT. He increased his LSAT scores by 50% the first time he tried the method. He goes,
Wow.
I'm going to get into Harvard. This is insane. I
Wow.
hope we get into Harvard.
That's an incredible improvement. And that
Yeah.
goes
I
to
was shocked.
show
I was
you,
shocked.
yeah, that goes to show you how important focus is when obviously when it relates to productivity. Do you find that that's one of a leading cause of people not being productive in whatever kind of task, whether it's work, school, home, whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. They can't focus. And some of that is neurodivergence. Now, I would argue that we're all on a spectrum of neurodivergence. None of us are perfectly normal, I don't think. Um, but that's just my personal insights.
Yeah.
And part of it is we have all the distractions with our phones, we have all the distractions with our families, but part of it is just purely brain training. So one way you can train your brain is through learning to achieve flow state. And I actually have a course on flow state. So when we talk about contact information, I'll talk about how to get in touch with me to find out more about the course.
Awesome.
But getting into flow state is so incredibly important because one, it can make the mundane interesting, because when you're in the flow, you're in the zone, hours pass by, you don't hear airplanes, and all of a sudden your synapses in your brain are just crackling like crazy, and you have insights that you wouldn't have had. Your brain is working at a speed it wouldn't normally be working at. And then when you rest afterwards, your brain continues to make those connections, and you come up with insights that you wouldn't have come up with otherwise, because you couldn't have taken in enough information to do so.
So interesting. I'm
The
like
brain is
thinking
wild.
about all of the, yeah, I'm just thinking about all these things and how my day goes. And like, do I even get to focus? Like, I'm sitting here wondering if do I even get to the point where I'm focusing because I have so many things. Because, okay, for instance, I might be in front of my computer and I might be in front of, I don't know, example, a spreadsheet that I'm working on, and I'm updating a spreadsheet with whatever data that I'm updating it with. And I'm thinking that I'm focusing on that, but I feel like in my brain, I'm also thinking, okay, I have 15 more minutes before I know that I have to go and take my daughter, to soccer practice. But then I'm also thinking, okay, by the time I come back from getting but I'm doing this task. But these things, how can you possibly stop that? How can you stop all the craziness that goes on? Like, can that even stop?
It does stop. I promise it stops. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes truly meditation. I have guided meditations available on my YouTube channel. And for anybody who says, oh my gosh, I don't have time to meditate, none of them are longer than 10 minutes, because I don't want to talk for 10 minutes. I don't want to listen to myself for 10 minutes. So if I don't want to listen to myself for 10 minutes, nobody else will either, right? In meditation, you just want it short and sweet, because that's all we have time for. That's all the space we have is like 7 minutes. So I just posted one yesterday on weight loss, actually. And so it's a weight loss guided meditation. It's like 7.5 minutes long. So to answer your question, how you do that is through training your brain. It's like stretching a rubber band. When you first get a hair tie, it's so tight, it'll make a mark around your wrist. And then you slowly stretch it and stretch it and stretch it until it can't go back. Focus is the same way.
Okay.
You have to keep stretching it just like you stretch a hair tie. And it's frustrating at first because you want to make progress, but know that every time you're taking that time to meditate, you're making progress because you're stretching just a little bit. And I mean, it's no different than giving birth, really, because I mean, you know what happens. There you go,
Yeah.
stretch.
Yep. Yep.
So I absolutely just that was off topic, but so you have to stretch that focus muscle. And then once you stretch it, then you'll be able to focus for a lot longer periods of time. And then there are a lot of hacks and things that you can do. For example, setting a timer on your phone. You can set the 25-minute Pomodoro timer. And in addition to that, say have a timer for 3:15 p.m. to go pick up your daughter from school. And then whatever you have to do when you get home. So I will set sometimes 20 timers in a day. I'll have a timer to start dinner. I'll have a timer to remind me to start the laundry. And then I'll set a timer to go get the laundry. Otherwise, I won't otherwise.
Right. Right.
So I set timers for my daughter was taking off and we had a podcast at noon and she generally takes off at noon to go to work. And so I set a timer for 10 minutes before and I went and gave her a hug and a kiss goodbye.
Right.
And you
Okay.
just set those timers.
Okay. Now,
Mhm.
a question I did have also is when you do have that focus time and say you set this Pomodoro timer and okay, 25 minutes and you're going to be immersed in this task, whatever it is,
Mhm.
and you're in that focus mode. I don't know about you, but I know my life is completely chaotic where it's very hard for me to get away from the chaos, right? So there's something always
Mhm.
happening, whether it's a cat scratching at the door or a cat outside the
Right
door
now.
shaking his head and is jingling, or my teenager's not bothering me, but they don't know how to close doors without slamming them. So I'm constantly hearing door slams from each and every door that they're going in. Is
Mhm.
that part of it too? Like you're training your mind to kind of tune those things out where when you are focused, you're not hearing, the garbage men passing, my office window's right here. I hear the garbage men,
Yep.
or, the lawnmower for the neighbor, like, how do you
Mhm.
have tactics and ways to like ignore the chaos while you're in that 25 minutes, say, if you're doing that practice?
Absolutely. And a lot of that comes from the meditation, but my best solution for that is earbuds. I just have one earbud in. Well, I have two in to talk to you, but I have one earbud in at all times. And I I listen to so much just binaural beats that I forget that it's on. We are getting on today, and I thought, oh no, I have to turn up my binaural beats off. But there are different levels of hertz for concentration, for calming. And so you can just play those binaural beats with the appropriate hertz level behind it. And that's something that I work with my clients on is I'll say, okay, so these are your top 4 issues. So these, when you are trying to focus on your work, you can listen to this for binaural beats, and this is going to help you to focus. And then this one's going to help you to calm down. This one's going to help you to reach a deeper sleep. And so it's a hertz level sound with binaural beats, and you just play it in your ear, and everybody else you can just tune out, or you can listen to just your favorite upbeat music that like you know it from heart. You can sing along to it without even thinking. It's so in your subconscious that it actually does about the same thing.
Interesting.
Hmm.
All of it is just so interesting because I think we all, for the most part, have focus issues. And then when you really, really get down to it and you boil down to it and you dig down, how much more productive we could actually be, how much more we could get done in a day. You know, if I'm more productive and I'm getting the things I need to get done because I'm having more focus, then I'm not going into the next day with 5 things that I had to do the day before. So that's along the lines of how I'm thinking this would work. And I think that's
and you're not yelling at your kids and you're not yelling at your husband because you're calmer and you're learning instead of flying off the handle, which I have been guilty of over the years. Then you just say, you know what? Not worth it. And you go and you put your music in and do something else. And you say not worth it, because the long-term damage of, it might feel good to just like let the hormones fly and for a minute, and I'm perimenopausal, so I have plenty of hormones to let fly. As good as it feels in the moment, the way that their feelings are hurt just isn't worth it. And so I've just learned to say, nope, not worth it. I just turn around and I leave and I put myself in timeout music until I feel better.
Yeah. I love that. And I think a lot of people can resonate with this and feeling these things, even if they never want to admit it, or maybe it's just a realization like, hey, I've been kind of feeling that way. And maybe this is the reason. I absolutely love that. And I think that I can speak for like all of the listeners that are listening right now. You believe me, you can relate to this, and you can relate to, because I know very little people that can just magically focus on something and be able to be as productive, maybe retired people, maybe like my parents who are retired and they're like looking for things to do. But, I absolutely love it. But, tell us, how can people get in touch with you? Where can they go and kind of look at some of the resources that you have and look at the different types of coaching that you offer? Tell us where we can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So if you go on Facebook, find me at Becca Froh, BECCAFROH. And if you send me a DM Vision, I'll send you a free Vision workbook. You can find my book, Are You Okay?, on Amazon. It's also on Kindle Unlimited. And you can go to my website, getproductive.org. And then you can get in touch with me for information about coaching or our flow state class. So getproductive.org.
And I love how it's all different types of resources. It's not just one thing, because obviously people struggle with different aspects that, is holding them back from focusing or being productive. And I love how you have the different options. And it seems like it would connect and resonate with a lot of different people once they realize and admit that they, probably need a little assistance in that. So this was absolutely eye-opening for me, because I feel like on every podcast that I do, it like opens my eyes and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need that too. With the amount of things that I need and the amount of coaching programs that like I've written down that I probably need, I would probably never make an income. But but that's the first part, right? Admitting that you need help, and not having the shame in admitting that. But thank you so much for joining us today. It was wonderful. Everybody get in touch with Becca, because, increasing your focus and increasing your productivity, I think is, just wrapped up in so much of our lives and would improve so many different parts of our life, that I think is extremely beneficial. And I love what you're doing. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
And get in touch with Becca. I'm telling you, I think this is, this could be a game changer for a lot of people. Thanks.
I always say, whether you're in your quarter life crisis, your midlife crisis, or an existential crisis between, that's how I can help.
100%. I love it. You're like an all-in-one. I love it. But thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at The U World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.